welcome to another episode of Sinews of War. In the previous episode, we saw the continuation of that sneaky battle with Spain where they'd attacked Madrid. Luckily, we managed to overcome them and hold on to the capital. Vos was then able to go and besiege their final main force at Gibraltar. In America, we conquered all of Spain's remaining holdings, meaning the war with Spain is going really far in our favour, and it came down to a final battle where their main force attacked Vos at Gibraltar. He, though, had fire by rank on his side and was able to really easily decimate the enemy at range. It descended into a melee when the Spanish realised what was going on, but luckily we had numbers on our side by then, and using cavalry we managed to finish them off. Now let's continue. We can expect a ship laden with gold every week from now on. The stadtholders have finally realised that the West India Company has grown too big for its boots, and finally they return to us. So now our plans may finally begin. We will raise an army here on Ceylon, making use of the local natives, and prepare to take control of the mainland. Mr. Grotius, I say once again that such a move would not only be suicide, but would play right into the hands of the Indians. Well then, Admiral Doan, it's lucky that you will not have to take part in this. I was going to get onto this later, but I might as well tell you now. You are to return to the East Indies to find and destroy all Spanish trade and secure the areas of production for any and all commodities you can. Why now, on the eve of the invasion of India? You don't think the fleet will be needed? No. And more to the point, the Spanish have lost all in America, and word has it they are defeated in Europe as well. Every power in the world will attack their trade fleets, so it must be us that does it first. So be it. I would not have lent my ships to your cause anyway, and you won't need to, now that the States General send their aid. Finally, it is time for we gentlemen, who have put up with so much to keep this company afloat, to start seeing the spoils of war. After his victory in Gibraltar, Vos gains the trait Brave Soldier for his axe, increasing his skill yet further, so that's very nice. So not much left inside the garrison at Gibraltar. You can see we have a big advantage there. I thought maybe they would actually surrender to us, but apparently not, so I'm just going to keep the siege going. They've only got a turn of supplies left, so might as well just siege them out. They still have those nomads who can wander around damaging my infrastructure, but very soon we'll be able to sort it out. I considered sending some cav from the city to go and deal with them, but I realised if I didn't, I could actually tax Madrid, which would make me a lot of money, so I decided to just keep it as it is. We'll clear it all up in the future. Now switching over to Duan, who has just arrived back in the East Indies with our newly constructed massive fleet. Basically, we're going to try and completely destroy the Spanish and take any trade nodes we can. Other powers have already snuck in to take trade nodes while we were away, so that's going to reduce our profit potential slightly. As you can see, the Spanish fleet, tiny in comparison to ours. It's got the same ships, but fewer of them, and damage. We just have loads of powerful ships here. So I thought I'd auto-resolve, thought the balance bar was lying, and, well, look at that. We lost every single one of our ships, and didn't destroy a single of the enemies. And immediately I realised this has actually happened before, fighting this same fleet earlier on in the campaign. I think something's slightly bugged about this Spanish fleet. It's invincible. That means Duan is dead. All of a sudden, that absolutely flabbergasted me. I did not see this coming. The enemy fleet even taking on some of our ships and only being very lightly damaged in that engagement against a massive array of superior classes of ship. You can see I'm like, okay, I'm going to save scum because that's insane, but my last save is actually about midway through the previous episode, so it would be so much backtracking to go and do all of that again. So I decided, well, we're going to have to just accept this fate in order to continue on a practical basis. But that is absolutely insane. The only upside is I now make a massive profit from not sustaining that large fleet, but I don't think that really makes up for it. So now jumping over to America, Ustra is taking his forces to defeat the last of the Spanish here, who looked like they were going to go and do some raiding. It's just some natives. This time the auto-resolve works properly and we just take them out, no trouble at all. Ustra's plan is going to be to move to the southwest, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. In the meantime, I'm going to be upgrading our newly taken American territories to get them nice and profitable. In Europe, my next plan is to attack the Spanish territories that remain. I know there's not many forces, but they still have 2 regions. So we can either try and get peace with Spain or knock them out. And I think knocking them out entirely is probably going to be the best thing to do. So I'm getting Vos's old army together with as many troops as I can without northern Italy becoming rebellious. And I'm going to move out by sea. And I'm not going to make the mistake this time of actually landing at the port and trying to walk to the settlement, because the port's so far away from the settlement itself. I think it's actually actually just as quick to just make a hard landing right next to Naples. As you can see, there's no army inside, it's just the garrison, so it's not going to be a terribly difficult engagement. We're pretty much guaranteed to take Naples, and then we'll have to go and attack Sardinia as well if we want to totally finish them off. The Spanish do have a fleet there that's not blockaded, so that gives them the ability to move that fleet around and attack my trade routes in the Mediterranean, which is a risk. We're going to see how that goes. First, they sallied out again at Gibraltar, and this time I think we got some more balance bar madness going on. It says they have the advantage, even though when we checked this battle earlier we had a giant advantage. I decided to assume that the balance bar was lying in this case, but I am going to lay down a cheeky save to be more safe. Once that was down, the auto-resolve actually ended up being fine, so I'm not sure what actually determines how random the auto-resolve is. Sometimes it's very dependable, sometimes it's outlandish, never really seems to be in between, I don't know. But anyway, with that battle won, the Spanish are all but defeated in Europe. So back in America, Ustra is ready to continue his mission. We're going to leave Nassau up there in those newly captured territories and just regenerate his army for now. Ustra is actually going to go on a quest for the West India Company. We are going to be moving westwards along this road, which eventually comes to the Pueblo Nation's territories, a small tribe that should be easily conquered by our modernized army. Something that Nassau might not be seen doing, but Ustra doesn't really mind going and conducting. We're going to add to his forces with extra men recruited from Louisiana there. To try and get a bit of revenge, Nassau is going to try and get an alliance with the Iroquois Confederation, the native tribes to the north. Unfortunately for us, this tribe does not want to be associated with us and they reject the deal. So although they're not hostile towards us, there is still the possibility that we could be invaded by them from the north, as they are generally a bit hostile towards us European powers. So switching back to Europe, you can see Vos is now safely inside Gibraltar with the Spanish army now finally defeated, so that is good news. There's that full stack of Moroccans just across the strait there. I don't think that's going to be a threat. I think Morocco are fine with us. Interestingly, my allies, the Italian states, have actually conquered part of Africa there, so that actually makes the situation a little bit more secure. So all we need to do is move out and finish off the Spanish in Spain. It's just 2 African regiments, and they go right down, so that means we can start repairing up the area and getting our troops together and generally consolidating our gains. So back over in Italy, it's time to make that attack on Naples. Our force is ready. The enemy army inside, nothing special, a load of garrison line infantry, some militia and some mortars. Our army clearly going to overpower them, but I didn't want to take the losses we'd probably take via auto-resolve. It would be very expensive to replenish them, so we will very quickly have a little look at this battle. Fire, disease, heavy mist. What is all this speculation? I don't want to know what you think could have happened. I want to know by the grace of God what did happen. Those were company ships, as much as that tyke likes to think otherwise. I have a board of angry investors asking where the trade we promised them is. Am I to tell them that it was all lost to ghost ships? That's the best I've bloody got after your joke of an investigation. Get out of my sight this instant. Time to consider how we control the damage this will do. As long as Europe does not know, it may be possible to build another fleet quietly and continue our operations with but a minor delay, and without that upstart admiral snapping at my feet. Good can come of this. As the battle begins, I'm going to be keeping my distance from the town to make sure we're out of range of their mortars, of course, but it doesn't stop me from firing at the enemy. Enemy going to have a lot of cover. They've got plenty of buildings on walls all over the place, and our guns are super inaccurate, so this is unlikely to actually do anything, but it's going to stir them up and make them come out of the town, which would be great for me. You can see their mortars here right at the back, so we've got lots of room to play with. I can even advance a little bit without being in their range. I was able actually to send a unit of cavalry to just go and take them out. The enemy did kill 1 or 2 of those cav on the way in, but nothing major, and there you go, making melee contact with them. That's going to seal the deal. They actually fire at the last second, a whole massive gore fest as they destroy one of my cavalrymen, very deadly, but of course the enemies can go down, and their commanding officer was amongst that mortar crew, so that's going to hamper the progress of the rest of their army. So those horses will quickly finish off those guys and can then come back to join the fight, although they may not make it in time because the fight isn't going to last all that long. They're just advancing with their line infantry towards my static line, messing their formation up as usual at the last minute. Some of them have been distracted off by the fact I have them totally outflanked to the rear with cavalry, so this unit of line infantry is going to be attacked by 3 regiments of horse. That is not going to go well for them. Going to do something similar on the other flank. I'm even folding the line a little bit so we can get extra fire onto the enemy, try and get them to go fast, but we don't really need this because, of course, we are fire by rank, the enemy don't, so they have pretty much no hope in a ranged contest. So there go the cavalry, 3 of them smashing in to that line infantry regiment, their numbers dropping so fast, they're not going to be happy with that. They are very rapidly just going to rout in that situation. And speaking of routing, some of the enemies already falling back. The line battle only really had 1 volley, and that already routed half of the enemy's troops. I decided at this point we might as well speed things up with a melee charge, so I'm going to go full melee on both flanks now, and I just need to get my cavalry back there out of the melee where they've already defeated those line infantry to go and kill those routers so that they don't come back. That will make the battle go a little bit faster as well, and pretty rapidly we actually get to the point where all of the enemy troops are routing, and of course that ends the battle, so I don't really need to bother hunting down the rest of the enemy. That's a very easy heroic victory. I wouldn't really call it a heroic victory given the odds, but Empire's quite nice like that. So there we go, we lost pretty much nothing, killed over 2,000 enemy soldiers. Naples is taken without a fuss. So the place has a fair number of infrastructure points, building points I should say, that we can upgrade, so we're going to be able to make this place nice and valuable, and it's got a Catholic church for us to burn down, which is always nice, so we'll work on that with some money. I also need, of course, to think about taking out the Spanish at Sardinia, and I discover they actually do have an army inside, an army that's melee focused, lots of swordsmen again in that force, so an interesting little situation, because they are stuck on the island without ships to take them off, so they'll need to bring their navy over from here in the west if they want to move them anywhere. I was thinking I might actually get Vos and Geiden to bring their army over to fight that battle instead, since it might be a little bit more challenging than the Naples situation. Now the Spanish fleet actually blockades Marseille, and that is actually going to cost me a lot of money every turn, and they offer me this outrageous peace treaty at the same time, which we're going to reject, so we're just going to take that loss of money from the blockade and continue on with the war. We have an election going on, which means we have new ministers coming in, mostly okay. The justice minister wasn't all that good, so I decided I'd gamble on just kicking him out of the cabinet to see if we got anyone better, and we actually did. We got a very good justice minister, so that's going to give us a bonus to public order all over the place, so that is going to be handy. In order to move Vos and Geiden out of Gibraltar, it would be quite nice if we could take out the Spanish fleet so that my fleet can be freed up from just blockading them inside this port. So I moved the unit to force them out of port, and that causes a naval battle. I was considering fighting this one. Firstly, because we saw the balance bar on naval battles can be a bit weird earlier on, and because we haven't had a naval battle in a while, but after long consideration I decided not to bother. I'll wait for something more interesting to come along, a more balanced naval engagement, and this time the balance bar doesn't betray me. We get the result I expected. We don't lose anything, and we destroy the entire of the much smaller enemy fleet. So that's all fine. They of course still have the other fleet, and it would be very nice to take them down since they're stealing thousands per turn from us in trade. Well, not stealing, they're blocking it. So that's going to be costing us, I don't know, perhaps 7,000, something like that per turn to have that blockade there, because our trade is so valuable. But what I'm going to do first is actually repair this fleet. That gives me the advantage of making the battle easier, plus it means Vos's army will be at full strength and can then get on the ships next turn to move out in that general direction. Now on Ceylon, as you might have guessed from our narrative earlier, I'm building up an army for the East India Company. It's going to be mainly based around this VOC infantry, a special unit recruitable only over here. They're pretty much the same as regular line infantry, but they are recruited from the Indian population rather than brought over from Europe. So now it's time for Ustra to continue his campaign west. Not much going to happen in the next turn or two, but soon he will have some action. Prussia comes to me with this weird deal. They want an alliance to give me military access, some money, and they want one of my techs. So it's kind of buying this tech with a military alliance just thrown in, really. I decided to alter the deal and see if they just wanted military alliance, because that's what I'm more interested in. And they actually do accept that deal, so that's going to increase the security of our eastern border, since Prussia do have territories that border us, I think, in Strasbourg, but that only lasts about 1 minute, because our eastern security is immediately destroyed by the Ottoman Empire, who come to declare war on us. They are the faction that are probably winning the campaign, the strongest faction. They control most of Europe right now. I'm going to call in my allies to this one and see who joins me, because we could use the help, and unfortunately both our new ally Prussia and Great Britain refused to join. I wasn't surprised about Prussia or really caring about that, but Britain, that stings a little bit. At least we've got everyone else on board. That's really going to help. And the Ottomans didn't have any attacks that they were going to make in their first turn, so that means no immediate threat. We're going to have some time to respond to this sudden massive war that's about to take place.
Hemos probado con el ferro, con los cuadros del tercio. Incluso en esos malditos cañones hemos puesto nuestros esfuerzos. Y aun con todo, los condenados holandeses siguen ganando con su brujería. Las noticias ante su majestad de las Américas no arriban ya ni rumores, y ni tan siquiera uno solo de nuestros galeones es capaz de romper el bloque holandés. ¿Y qué le queda a un servidor? Mercenarios harapientos, botes con tripulaciones al grito de motín. Y esta roca en medio del mar. ¿Por qué el Todopoderoso me impone tamaño desafío? Porque nos maldice a nosotros, piadosos pocos, y recompensa a aquellos que abandonaron su iglesia. ¿Ha abandonado a nuestro Señor a los hijos de España para alimentar las fauces de Satán? No, debe tratarse de una mera prueba, para reforzar nuestra fe. Pero, Cerdeña, de todos los lugares, verdaderamente se requiere de un hombre bendecido por los cielos para conseguir algo en aquesta maldita isla.
The Italian states, my allies, very handily take out the Ottoman fleet in the Mediterranean, so that was very nice of them and a good start to the war. Now the first thing I'm actually going to do is go right back to Britain and try and re-establish our military alliance, because it's important to me and my strategy that both Britain and the 13 colonies stay on my side. They agreed to the deal if I give them a payment that was negligible in comparison to my treasury, so that is all fine. So now we need to think about what moves we're actually going to make. There's an Ottoman trade route going right through the Mediterranean. It doesn't have any money on it right now, so there's no point raiding it, but at some point that might be useful. And the only point we actually directly border the Ottomans is Venice there. But of course, they have tons of territory. They seem to control most of the Balkans, and as you can see on the mini-map in the bottom left, they control pretty much the whole of the eastern part of the European theatre. So we are going to need to take this seriously, but right away we can actually go on the offensive against the Ottomans, since they didn't do anything against us, and because their border with us at Venice doesn't appear to be guarded. So what I'm going to do is load up the army here, coming out of Naples into this ship I've prepared. They were originally going to go for Sardinia, but now they can be repurposed for an attack on Venice. So we can sail right up to their docks. They're not occupied, so we can land the troops in the docks, retaining all of their movement points. So we disembark from the ships and can now actually just walk right up to the city, which is just beside the docks. We've got plenty of movement points left. So that gives us a very massive advantage over the very small garrison that's inside. So big, in fact, that they surrender to us. So we get Venice without a fight. It actually damages all the buildings inside, which is actually a real bother, but still nice to just get that town for free. So that is a great start. It is a region capital, or capital of a faction, I should say, so it's going to be really unhappy and hard to control. We're going to need to get those repairs in quickly and probably leave a massive garrison here for a long time. So it might be in our advantage to try and just defend this point now against the Ottomans. As you can see here, they do have a stack in the next province over that's been revealed, so they may just attack us right now. So in order to help out with this front, we're going to jump over to Gibraltar and try and get Vos and Geiden over to take part in the war. So they are going to stack up onto those ships. We're going to leave some militia in the port once the ships leave to prevent it from being occupied. And now we can move the army right over to the battlefront. So I'm going to bypass the Spanish fleet for now. Originally I was thinking I might take them out on the way, but just to be safe, we're going to land the troops first, even if it means losing all of our movement points and not necessarily being able to attack the Spanish this turn. So we sail to Genoa with the fleet, and now we're going to put the army on land after a bit of hassle because there are militia in the port already, and I was trying to put 20 units into it. But anyway, once ready, they can actually move all the way over to stand right next to Venice. So if the Ottomans do want to make an attack, we now have a very steadfast defensive position, which is very nice. As you can see, I'm also putting Vos back in charge of his original army, Geiden finally regaining command of that army that he originally led out of Paris, and Vos rejoining his old troops. Now it turns out that our fleet actually can still attack the Spanish blockade. It was actually just a load of Zebics and light ships, so nothing to worry about. We're just going to auto-resolve them out of existence with no trouble, and we also actually captured a 6th raid, a 5th raid even, sorry, so I'm going to put that into my fleet since that's going to come in useful. So we'll need to go into the docks and repair it, and repair the minor damage to the other ships in the auto-resolve, and I thought I might as well throw in another 5th rate as well, so we'll have a nice powerful fleet here in the Mediterranean with which we can go and attack the Ottomans. So that gives us some trade back, still not making as much money as we had been previously, sorry, because we're not trading with the Ottomans anymore, and them being a massive empire were a huge trade partner for us, so we're actually going to not really get back up to the heights of profitability we had before this war, unfortunately. So now, switching to the diplomacy screen, I wanted to see if Genoa, who are sitting there controlling Corsica, wanted to be my protectorate in exchange for peace. They counter-offer saying they'll go to peace if I give them the Leeward Islands, which is an absolutely outrageous proposition. So we're going to reject that. There's still no threat to us, but I just thought it would be nice if we could actually be at peace with them, so I don't have to worry about it. Then I did the same deal for Spain, protectoracy for peace, and they outright rejected the deal, which I guess is to be expected because they have more pride even than the Genoans. They actually come back at the end of the turn with a peace deal of their own. They want me to give them a load of tech. They're going to give me a small amount of money and then they'll take peace, but that of course not going to happen. We can't give any ground considering how well we've done in the war. The Prussians return with a deal. They want alliance and a tech trade. They want me to give them tech in exchange for military access, which is not helpful at all. I throw that out and try and rekindle our military alliance. We didn't really get anywhere with it before, so restarting it now. Hopefully this will be a more productive alliance. You can see Prussia there control southern Germany basically and appear to be at war with Württemberg and have just ended that war by the looks of it. So in the Ottoman turn, that stack near Venice actually moves away, so no counterattack coming in. It's nice to see. They have that little army standing next to it as well, but that army goes away and then suddenly some troops come back. So I'm not 100% sure what they're doing. They're reshuffling their forces, it seems, but right now not seeming to pose any threat or intending to go on the offensive. So in the next turn, I thought I might as well actually go on the offensive against them, even though it would be nice to just defend Venice, because it's going to be hard to move our troops away. We spot their force there in the mines. It's got a high-level general and some very flashy-looking men, but obviously not going to pose a major threat to a full stack of professional line infantry. So Vos is going to leave Geiden behind to control Venice and hold the line, while he is just going to sneak right out, incredibly cheekily, into Croatia here, the nearest settlement, and just attack it. Inside, a colourful garrison with a nice variety of units, and we probably are going to have to fight this one to get in. So they've got some good melee units in here, but particularly poor ranged units. Those grenadiers might do some damage to us, but overall I'm confident here that our ranged advantage will win out, and if not, our numerical advantage is definitely going to make things easy. So let's head down and see how Vos handles this one. You should see the stadholders up in arms about Vos again. He's jumped ship in Venice to hunt the Ottomans on his own. Completely out of control. Ridiculous. And when you consider how the West India Company is clearly becoming more powerful than the States General itself, it certainly paints a picture of how far those poor men are from the reality of their government. This is the sort of idiocy that crops up when a gang of jostling upstarts try to share power that spans the world. I've said it before and I continue to say it. We need someone of dignity, rank and intelligence to take the helm of this wayward vessel and rally the crew to sail together. You know what I mean, don't you? The battle begins with me setting up the cannons to bombard the enemy. Since they have no artillery, we're going to immediately turn this from an attack into a defense. They'll have to come up my hill to fight me. So here are their infantry. They've got a number of colourful janissaries, and they've got these heavily armoured looking line infantry guys. They are a little bit more strong in melee compared to regular line infantry, but overall worse at range, which of course where they're going to be mostly fighting. They've also got these Bosniaks, these Lancer Cav, who could be dangerous, potentially more powerful than my own cavalry. And on their left flank, they're looking particularly weak with these armed populists, just swordsmen really, and a few more of those armoured line infantry. So we have infantry advantage even in numbers, so I'm going to surround the enemy and just start firing upon them as they advance. We have the range superiority, so this is great for me. Here the armed populists getting cut down by this fire, and interestingly there was a hidden unit of Azars behind them who rout when the volleys come in. Then the armed populists decide to rout as well, seeing their backup go, and then that loss of the flank causes these infantry to fall back as well. So very quickly we've defeated half the enemy's army. They will come back quite soon of course because they didn't really take losses, but that's a very good start to the battle, and it indicates that the enemy's morale is so low that actually I might be able to take them out by just sending in all the cavalry, which is what I'm doing now. So contacting them in melee might break them, and then the cavalry will kill them. Their right flank, though, is actually going to come up the hill and try and do a line battle with the men on top, which of course is fine by me, especially because in this line we have our specialist-trained Valdec infantry who are superior to regular line infantry with their nice yellow uniforms. So we're just going to blast down at the enemy with extra accuracy, so the enemy getting cut down rapidly, routes occurring right away. This unit being decimated by that fire. They're going to rout pretty soon as well. So all lovely over there. At the back, I'm actually calling off my cavalry attack because I noticed this unit, which is garrisoned on this wall for some reason, was actually firing because it's facing the back of their own lines. It manages to protect them from cavalry charges a little bit, so I think an accidentally good move from the AI, but other units actually routed in the direction my men were, so we killed them as they left. Meanwhile, the line infantry battle is already over. We shot down 100 of the enemy for basically no losses, and they're going to start falling back, so that makes sense for them. This unit of infantry that came back from routing is going to try and fire at my cav, but actually there's a little bump in the ground that means they can't see them, so we're not really taking any losses from that, and we're going to continue to charge in and hit their forces in the centre. These Azars just routing the second the cavalry come in and make contact, just as I had hoped, and many of them will now die attempting to escape. And the rest of their infantry, who are trying to escape from my infantry on the hill, now have to retreat through my cavalry position. That's going to make it extra hard for them to escape, so that's good news as well. At this point I thought we might as well actually just do an infantry charge because the battle's basically over. Let's just hound the routing units. We killed their general among the Bosniaks over here. I went in for a cavalry engagement even though I had misgivings about whether my cavalry could actually beat these guys. Turns out they certainly can. They absolutely destroyed them, so that was fine and dandy, and with the general killed, that's going to reduce the chance that any of these units will come back from routing. Some of them who changed direction to avoid my cav are now impacted by the infantry coming down from the hill, and these line infantry have absolutely no mercy. They just rush among the enemy's janissaries and start cutting them down with their bayonets. Easy kills for our men. The enemy force still technically fighting because they're not all routing. They have a couple of units in combat. Here these janissaries are fighting with my horsemen and just about managing to hold on in this battle, but it's going to get bad very quickly as these infantry join the fight and they actually rout just as this flank attack occurs. So that's going to prove to be a very bad choice by the janissaries, since the cavalry and infantry will now just kill them all as they attempt to escape. They have pretty much no chance there. The battle's still going on though, because they do have another unit fighting in melee. These are garrison Israelis who, as I mentioned, have higher melee stats than their average line infantry unit, so they're doing okay fighting against these cavalry in melee, even managing to start reducing our numbers, so we need to go and support this attack as quickly as we can. In order to do that, I'm sending in 2 extra units to help out, one of infantry and one of Vos and his guards. Vos is going to overtake these infantry, not letting them get the glory, and charge right through our own regiment and then into the enemy's flank. It's going to be a devastating move as he cuts the enemy's formation apart, going all the way through, then the infantry coming to follow up, rushing into the gaps. So that was very nice timing, a double morale shock that absolutely obliterates the enemy infantry. They fall back, and that's going to bring an end to the battle as the last of their men are absolutely cut down by that assault. So there we go. There's our second victory against the Ottoman Empire. 2 for 2. Very good stuff. We apparently, according to these results, lost 100 men to friendly fire. I didn't see it happening, so I'm not sure what exactly happened. Possibly someone fired into a melee or something. Not totally sure, but it's not going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things. One of my line infantry there apparently taking a good number of losses. But anyway, so we've had a very good start to our war with the Ottomans. Will they respond? We will find out next time. Fearing that the Dutch were going to attack as soon as they had destroyed the final bastions of Spain, the Ottoman Empire declared a state of war without consulting any of its frontline generals. If they had, they would have found that their positions and readiness levels in no way made a war with the United Provinces possible. As such, in the opening months of the war, lightning attacks, fueled by the Dutch control of the seas, took the major city of Venice by storm, and even raided as deep as Croatia, looking for men and supplies to neutralize. With their existing war with Poland-Lithuania far from won, the Ottomans were facing a sudden reversal of their fortunes. Now they would need to mobilize their whole empire in response. Thanks for watching. We'll see what the Ottomans do next and see Ustra's crusade in America in the next episode of Sinews of War.